My name is Olivia. I'm 42, and my own sister, a bank manager, publicly humiliated me for trying to withdraw just $150 before I tell you how I responded by triggering a $4.2 billion asset transfer that froze their entire system and got her fired on the spot. Please let me know in the comments where you're watching from. It helps to know I'm not alone. To understand why I didn't yell or make a scene that day, you have to understand my family. For them, I was always less. The quiet one. The one who made handmade birthday cards instead of buying fancy gifts. I still remember my 10th birthday. I had spent an entire month painting a picture of a lighthouse for my parents, my tiny hands covered in blue and gray paint. My heart was racing when I gave it to them. My father, Richard, barely glanced at it before turning to my sisters. Now, Vanessa, Cassandra, what did you two get us? They had pooled their allowance to buy a crystal vase. My mother, Helen, gasped with delight. My painting was set aside on a side table. Forgotten. That was the day I learned my place. I wasn't the smart one, the pretty one, or the successful one. Vanessa was the golden child, ruthless and ambitious, climbing the corporate ladder. Cassandra was the social butterfly, charming and manipulative, always the center of attention. And me? I was just Olivia, the quiet placeholder. The family's convenient afterthought, that dynamic never changed. It hardened, like cement around my feet. Years later, at a family dinner, I tried to share good news. The community garden I volunteered at had just won a small grant to build a children's section. I opened my mouth to tell them, but Vanessa cut me off, laughing as she announced her latest promotion. The whole table shifted to her new title, her huge bonus, her new car. My father beamed. My mother clapped. And I just sat there, my small moment dissolving into silence. I felt invisible. The only person who ever truly saw me was my grandfather. He was quiet, like me, but his eyes missed nothing. Before he passed, he left me a small, worn wooden box. Inside was an old-fashioned key and a note written in his careful handwriting. For the youngest, because she has the biggest heart. Use it when they forget who you are. He also made me the executor of a small family trust, a modest fund meant as a safety net for all of us. It wasn't a huge fortune, but it was his legacy. Recently, I had noticed a few strange withdrawals in the statements, small amounts taken out by Cassandra. A knot of worry formed in my stomach, but I pushed it aside. You always want to believe the best of your family, even when they keep proving you wrong. The one good thing about being invisible was that it forced me to build a quiet, peaceful life on my own terms, far from their judgment. I had my small, tidy apartment. I had my books. And I had Mrs. Gable. She lived 2 doors down, an 80-year-old widow with a laugh that filled the hallway and eyes that sparkled when she smiled. She was more like a mother to me than my own. She'd call just to share a recipe or a funny story about her late husband. She saw me. That cold Tuesday morning, Mrs. Gable called, her voice shaky. Her heater had broken, and the repairman wanted $150 in cash up front. She was short that amount. Don't worry about a thing, I told her, my voice steadier than I felt. I'll go to the bank and get it for you right now. Which brought me there, standing in the sterile, cold lobby of Crescent Bank, waiting in line like everyone else, and behind the manager's desk, watching me with a smug little smile, stood my sister, Vanessa. When it was my turn, I stepped up to the teller. But before I could speak, Vanessa strutted over, her heels clicking sharply on the marble floor. Well, look who showed up, she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. What can we do for you, Olivia? I just need to withdraw $150, I said softly. She let out a loud, sharp laugh, a performance for everyone in the room. $150? Is that all? She sneered, lowering her voice just enough for everyone to hear. We don't really serve beggars here. Are you sure you even have that much in your account? The air vanished from my lungs. Heat rushed up my neck. I could feel every pair of eyes on me, some pitying, some just curious. The teller looked away, clearly uncomfortable, and for a split second, I saw that same little girl, the 10-year-old me holding her forgotten painting. The young woman at the dinner table silenced again. Something shifted inside me. Not anger, not yet. Just a deep, bone-tired weariness. I was so tired of being treated like nothing. I looked my sister in the eye. I didn't say a word. I turned and walked out of the bank. The glass door hissed shut behind me. At that moment, I thought the humiliation was the worst part. I was so wrong. The worst wasn't what she did. It was what I was about to do. That night, my apartment felt smaller than ever. The silence was heavy. I made a cup of tea, my hands trembling slightly, and sat down on my old thrift store sofa. Then I opened my laptop. It wasn't fancy, but it was secure. Very secure. With a few keystrokes, I bypassed the simple version of my life and entered the real one. The screen flickered and a black dashboard appeared. At the top, in white letters, was a name, Shellcode 7, and beneath it, a number, 4,350,000. This was my secret. The life I had quietly built. While my family mocked my simple existence after a brutal argument years ago, when my father told me I'd never amount to anything, I walked away. I took the small inheritance my grandfather had left me personally, and I poured all my grief and focus into one thing I understood best: patterns, financial markets. I built an algorithm, a predictive system so precise and elegant it felt like poetry. I called it Move, after the mourning doves that used to coo outside my window. Move wasn't a person. It was a ghost in the machine, my creation. And Shellcode 7 was the investment fund it powered. To the world, I was just Olivia, an ordinary woman living a quiet life in Cincinnati. But in truth, I could buy my sister's bank 10 times over and not even notice. I wasn't looking for revenge. I was just surviving. But that night, as I stared at my screen, I decided to check my fund's quarterly report. That's when I saw it. A new subsidiary acquisition under one of my partner banks, Crescent Bank. My sister's bank. Through a series of mergers, her employer now worked for my fund. Vanessa worked for me. She just didn't know it. A switch flipped inside me. It wasn't about the $150 anymore. It wasn't even about the insults. It was about respect. And for the first time in my life, I held all the power. The screen glowed to life, showing a sleek black dashboard with crisp white text at the top. Shellcode 7, right beneath it. A number shimmered, $4,210,350,000. This was my secret world. The life I'd quietly built in the shadows while my family looked down on my thrift store clothes and soft voice. Years ago, after my father sneered that I'd never amount to anything, I had walked away for good. I took the small inheritance my grandfather left me, the one separate from the family trust, and I turned it into something extraordinary. All my pain, my focus, my quiet brilliance went into one thing I truly understood: patterns. I built an algorithm that predicted financial shifts before they happened. Clean, elegant, alive. I called it MOVE, after the mourning doves that used to coo outside my window. MOVE wasn't human. It was a ghost in the code. And Shellcode 7 was the fund built from its genius. No one knew I was behind it. To the world, I was just Olivia, quiet, invisible, average. But behind the curtain, I had become the architect of a fortune large enough to move markets. A bitter laugh slipped from my throat. My sister, the woman who mocked me over $150, was a mid-level bank manager bragging about her salary. And I could have bought her entire bank 10 times over, without feeling it. I wasn't looking for revenge. I was surviving. But as I stared at that glowing screen, I decided to run a quick review. Routine? Nothing more. That's when I saw it. In the portfolio list of corporate acquisitions, one name froze me cold: Crescent Bank, my sister's bank. Through mergers and takeovers, her branch now fell under a financial group managed by Shellcode 7. Without knowing it, Vanessa worked for me. Something inside me shifted. It wasn't about the $150 anymore. It was about balance. The same system she worshipped, the one that judged people by their titles and money, had unknowingly handed me the power to change everything. This wasn't vengeance. It was clarity. The clarity my grandfather saw in me when he wrote, "For the youngest, because she has the biggest heart. Use it when they forget who you are." So I began planning, not with anger, but precision. This would be calm, surgical, justice written in code. At 3 a.m., I picked up my secure phone. "Good morning," I said evenly to my legal advisor. "I need an emergency meeting with Crescent Bank's regional director. Tell them a representative from Shellcode 7, name M. Dove, will attend in person." The next morning, I didn't dress like a billionaire. Just a clean, simple navy dress. No designer bag, no flash. My power didn't need decoration. It lived in silence and certainty. Still, doubt whispered in my head, sounding just like my mother. Is this really necessary, Olivia? Why cause trouble? For a heartbeat, I almost believed her. Then I touched my grandfather's note again. He didn't tell me to use my anger or wealth. He told me to use my heart. And my heart knew this wasn't revenge. It was respect. A boundary. A quiet declaration I will not be stepped on anymore. When I walked into Crescent Bank the next day, the energy shifted instantly. A nervous man in a sleek suit rushed toward me the moment I entered. "I'm Marcus Chin, Regional Director," he stammered. "Miss Dove, thank you for coming." Vanessa stood behind the glass walls of her office, confusion twisting into a smirk as she recognized me. But that smirk vanished when she saw Mr. Chin practically bowing at my feet. "Please this way, Miss Dove," he said, ushering me into her office. The same room where she'd humiliated me the day before. I sat calmly in the visitor's chair. Vanessa lingered in the doorway, arms crossed, trying to mask her unease. "Shell Code 7 has concerns," I began softly, letting my words hang heavy in the air. Mr. Chin's face went pale. "Of course, Miss Dove, whatever you need." "It's not about what I need," I said evenly. "It's about what we've already decided." Vanessa blinked, still clueless. "Due to serious concerns about leadership at this branch, Shell Code 7 is initiating a hostile asset transfer." Mr. Chin looked ready to faint. Vanessa frowned. What?" "It means," I said, turning to her, "we're pulling every dollar from your bank. All $4.2 billion. We'll be moving it to a competitor. And per our agreement, we must state why. Loss of confidence in personnel. Specifically, personnel at this branch." The color drained from Mr. Chin's face. But I only watched Vanessa. I saw the moment she realized it. The name M. Dove, the unimaginable amount. Me. Her jaw dropped. Her eyes widened with horror. "You," she whispered. "It's you." I gave her a small, sad smile. "Me? I was just here yesterday for $150, remember?" And then she broke. Her knees buckled. The proud, untouchable bank manager collapsed into tears on the polished floor, sobbing uncontrollably. It wasn't pretty. It was raw, real, human. And for the first time, I didn't feel invisible at all. She started crawling toward me, hands trembling, knees scraping the polished floor. "Olivia, please," she sobbed. "Please don't do this. You'll ruin me. You'll ruin the family's reputation. What will Mom and Dad say?" Her words cut through the air, desperate, ugly, hollow. Even now, she wasn't asking for forgiveness. She was asking for protection. For her image. For her pride. For the story she told the world. I didn't even have to answer. Mr. Chin's voice sliced through the silence. "You," he hissed, pointing a shaking finger at her. "You did this. You brought this disaster on us. Get out." "You're fired." Security appeared. 2 guards lifted her gently but firmly to her feet. I stood, looked her in the eye, and spoke quietly, so only she could hear. "This was never about the money, Vanessa. It was about respect, something you never learned to give." Then I turned to Mr. Chin. "The transfer stands," and I walked out. The door hissed shut behind me, sealing her downfall in a whisper. I didn't feel triumphant. Just quiet, a deep, still quiet that comes right before an earthquake. Because I knew this wasn't over. As I drove away, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. "Cassandra. OMG, Liv. I heard what happened with Vanessa. Are you okay? We should talk." Then Gregory, her snake of a husband, calling nonstop. Then, Mother. "Olivia. Please call me. We're all very worried. Worried. Not when I was humiliated in public. Not when I was invisible at their dinners. Only now, when the balance of power had shifted. Their concern was sweet like spoiled fruit, sugary but rotten underneath. I ignored every call. Until one came in, and against my better judgment, I answered. "Olivia," my mother gasped. "Thank God, what have you done?" "Vanessa is devastated. Her career is over. How could you be so cruel, so vindictive? After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us? You have to fix this. Think of the family. Think of our reputation. Not once did she ask if I was okay. Not once did she say she was sorry. Her panic wasn't love. It was damage control. Something inside me broke cleanly, like glass under pressure. You're right, I said, my voice steady and cold. We need to talk about the family, all of us. One last time, Sunday evening. They arrived at the address I texted and stopped in stunned silence. It wasn't my tiny apartment. It was a house. A beautiful modern home tucked between pines and lavender, all warm wood and glass. Understated. Expensive. Mine. Their faces twisted. Part awe, part envy. Welcome, I said softly. Inside, dinner was simple but elegant. They sat around the long oak table, the same way they always had, except now, I wasn't small. My father spoke first, his tone sharp. All right, Olivia. You've made your point. You're rich. Now fix the mess you made with your sister. Cassandra nodded, her voice dripping with fake warmth. He's right, Liv. We're family. Vanessa made a mistake, but ruining her life? That's cruel. We have to stick together. They lectured me. 10 long minutes of blame, gaslighting, and self-pity. My mother wrung her hands, nodding along. Not once did they mention what Vanessa had done to me. When the last word fell, I stood, walked to the side table, picked up a thin, leather-bound file. If everyone's finished talking about how I ruined a life, I said quietly, let's talk about how Cassandra's been ruining a legacy. Her face drained of color. What? I opened the folder. The family trust fund. The one grandfather left for us. The one he asked me to protect. I slid a few papers across the table. See these withdrawals? And these forged invoices from a shell company she made? For 2 years, Cassandra's been stealing money from all of us. From grandfather's memory. The room fell silent. Gregory stared at his wife in disbelief. My father's jaw locked, white with rage. My mother's lips trembled, soundless. The golden child had turned to rust. I let them sit with it. The truth, the decay, the consequences they'd built. You want to talk about family? I said, my voice soft but shaking with decades of hurt. A family doesn't measure love in bonuses or titles. A family doesn't humiliate one child to lift up another. I looked each of them in the eyes. You weren't my family. You were shareholders in my pain. I took a deep breath. This isn't a family anymore. It's a failed business. And I'm liquidating my shares. I paused. This is goodbye. Months passed. The noise faded. Cassandra's company fired her after an internal audit. She's under investigation now. Vanessa works a desk job somewhere across town. My parents stopped calling. And me? I'm standing in sunlight. The air smells like lavender and soil. Not a boardroom. Not marble floors or hushed power. A garden. The new community reading garden at the local library. The Gable and Grandfather Garden. Mrs. Gable sits nearby, reading to children. She catches my eye and smiles that warm, crinkled smile, the one that feels like home. I kneel, pressing a small seedling into the dirt, and as the soil closes around its roots, I finally understand. The most important withdrawal I ever made wasn't $150 or $4.2 billion. It was withdrawing my love, my loyalty, and my energy from a bankrupt family account. That account is closed, permanently. Now, I'm planting something real. For the first time in my life, being just Olivia feels like more than enough.